Hi, it's Jane. And on today's WOTWIP and coffee, I don't have coffee, I just have water. I thought we'd kind of look through the crochet world today. I am going to crochet on my shirt. Today was the 5th anniversary of one of the videos I did where I'd added the sleeves on the front part. So that was kind of weird to see that. And someone had asked me about it, and I said, yeah, I started it about 5 years ago. So it was kind of odd to see that. But I will tell you, with the Crochet World magazine, when I'd gotten the last one, the spring one, I always look here on the subscription, and I knew that the spring 2025 was my last magazine. And so I was debating about whether renewing it because I've not done any patterns out of any of them. I like looking at them. When I don't get the magazine, I miss getting the magazine. So, and I decided not to renew it. Well, now this one comes saying that my subscription ends with spring 2026. So, I don't know what happened there. But whatever. But this is the cover of it. That looks like a really nice bag. I'm kind of curious what the bag is. You know, whether it's a cotton bag or whatnot. And there's a couple of bags in this episode. They do have a cute little bracelet there. It's called the linked bars cuff, and that's something for beginners. They have a couple of fancy washcloths. See, I wouldn't use those as washcloths. I'd probably use them as doilies. And I know a lot of you are going, what are doilies? You younger people. And then there is a little coaster. Those are coasters with a nice little holder. It's Stars and Stripes Forever coaster set. Aww. And with the amigurumi, there is another Rebecca, the raccoon. So, since I am starting to work on amigurumi, maybe I'll work on that. These have, it looks like hinged arms. And you know, I've been doing a lot of things for Operation Christmas Child, but I don't think I would do hinged arms. I think I would sew those in. That's a pretty jacket. Vanessa jacket. I noticed that things aren't really colorful for some reason this year. Maybe it's just me. But everything seems a little not colorful. But look at that. That's a nice spring doily. It's a gorgeous doily. That looks like a doily that I did years ago. No, this is Olga. The one that I did that was close to what this one looks like. Was it Denise Austin? I think she had created that doily. There's another doily to make. I like doilies, personally. I do. And this is a simple filet crochet pattern. It's cute. Of course, then they've got a couple of, you know, cutesy things in here. And here is this bag. Market bags. There are two. This one is the one that's on the cover, I think. Yep. And then this one is a different type of market bag. And both of them use Hobie Friends Ribbon Super Bulky, which is a cotton yarn. I would imagine you could probably do it in any yarn if you wanted to. This is what they call a stash and dash yarn. Stash and dash bag. Got some fruit or tomatoes in that one. Fruit. It's apples. Not tomatoes. It's been a rough morning, folks. I made spaghetti, and this one is called the Prairie Flower Market Bag. I really like that market bag. Now this one uses Omega, I'm going to butcher that name, Eulali Superfine Fingering Weight Cotton, and a C hook. If you want to make it really big, you could use a number 3, a 3 weight cotton. Bigger hook, maybe an F, maybe a D. Oh my goodness. Beginner amigurumi. Chickens. That would be fun to make. Freddie the Firecracker. Come on. These pages are sticking together. Next one is the Watermelon Dude. And I'm about to lose the battery, so let me pause you and change the battery. Okay. And the next one is Fernando, the Fancy Flamingo. Not just Fernando, but the Fancy Flamingo. And then there is Day at the Beach. It looks like a tee top and a hat, sun hat. There's a plaid beach blanket. That one's pretty. I've never done plaid works or anything like that. And they're calling this a nautical shrug. And it uses a DK weight yarn. And of course there's a lovely little, the way they've got it, where you could wrap it around your neck like a scarf. I guess around your back and your neck like a scarf. And then of course there's the beach hat. It's a cute hat. That uses a 3 weight as well. That uses a Wool and the Gang Rah Rah Raffia light DK weight. And this is kind of cute. Beach cover up. They call it the Summer Trio. And it has the cute little T-top. And they seem to all use 3 weights. That's a cute tunic. This is a 4 weight yarn. Uses a Supreme Medium Worsted Weight Cotton by Universal. That is nice. This is the Miramar Tee. very pretty. They're calling that one of Annie's signature designs on that one. And there is a picture of it with the hood up and the back of it. Very nice. It's a nice magazine today. I think that is it. Let me double check. Oh, nope, there's another. It's a mosaic beach blanket. Okay, kitty cats. And there's the whole blanket there. My cats are popping my roaster. I had the roaster on the floor in the kitchen, and they're popping at it. I'd come in yesterday after going to a Bible study class where there are about 26 to 30 women every day. Every Thursday for this. And we generally fix a lunch afterwards for just a little bit more socialization. Well, I chose to prepare the main meal this time. We divide it up. Someone brings the main, someone brings a side dish, and then someone brings dessert. So I volunteered for the main. And I chose spaghetti. Well, I went online looking for how much spaghetti to make for 30 people. Because it's what you do when you're not real sure and you haven't really made that kind of amount of food in a long time. But anyway, it came out to be that supposedly I was going to need 4 pounds of spaghetti, roughly cooked. So at 3 pounds of spaghetti, I'm looking at that pan and I'm thinking, that's a lot of spaghetti. So I was like, okay, Lord, should I put in this other package or not? And, I kind of got the message that stop, that was plenty. So, of course, then with making the spaghetti sauce, it's a combination. I use a combination of ragu and the Heinz in the cans, the big tall cans. And then a couple of tomato sauce or tomato paste, depending on what I have. I had tomato sauce this time. And I put in about a teaspoon of brown sugar. And then the secret sauce, and I've always done this, was to use V8 juice. Just the original V8 juice. Like 2 containers, what are they, 16 ounces, I think, put in there, and that helps with the flavor of it, with the usual onions. Didn't put mushrooms, because I know there's 2 people there that don't like mushrooms, and normally I would have put mushrooms, a lot of mushrooms. But, and I had so much spaghetti, I had to take it in the roaster, the big roaster. So I cleaned that out, and I have it sitting on the floor in front of the cabinet because I store it in the garage. Is where I store the roaster because I really don't have any place in the house to put it. And I just haven't moved it into the garage to where I need to put it back up into its space. So the cats keep popping at it, Come over, sniff it, and then pop it. Crazy cats. Oh, all right. My sweater is coming along. Getting close to being able to call it finished. Looking forward to that. Did any of you guys catch the Blue Horizon, Katy Perry and Gayle King? I gotta tell you, the memes about that are hilarious. But I do question it. And there's a couple of reasons I question it. One of the reasons being is how fast the Earth spins. They went up, yeah, they were only up there 11 minutes, but they should have landed farther than 2 miles from where they took off. When they landed, they landed pretty hard even with the parachutes. But they had no helmets. They don't wear helmets going in, coming out. All they have is a seatbelt, just a seatbelt. And then the other thing is the outside of the capsule has no re-entry marks on it. So, there's a part of me that goes, okay, maybe. I don't think so, but maybe. But the thing that got me was, while they had their 3 minutes in space, I question why it looked like there was air blowing in there to where their hair was blowing around. It didn't look the way we see the astronauts that are up in the space station where their hair doesn't really blow. It floats, but it doesn't blow around. And at one point it looks like there is a fan blowing on their hair. Maybe that was an optical illusion. I don't know. But I don't understand how they don't have whiplash from that landing. Because when we send our astronauts up, the way that they are packaged into those seats, and their seats are sturdy seats to hold their bodies, because when you're going up that far into space, there's a lot of G-force against you. So you need something to protect your neck, your head, your spine. And they had no helmets, just a seatbelt. So, I don't know. It just makes me wonder. And then, of course, the other thing was, when they're up there, the little comment that they made about, was it filling space or something like that? And then, because everybody's mocking them, making fun of it, and the memes have been hilarious. But then Gail King to come out and try to relate that it's inspirational to women and girls, and they were astronauts? No, you are not astronauts. You trained for 2 days to learn how to get in and out of that vehicle, to learn how to put on a seatbelt, and to learn how to push a button so you could be able to talk with mission control. You're not an astronaut. You didn't train for years and years to get there. You don't know how to fly it. You didn't fly it. You had no controls, no commands that you were doing. You had no controls that you were in charge of. You didn't do any scientific experiments. You didn't do anything for humanity being up there. So I don't find it inspirational. I don't know how it's an inspiration to young girls, unless it's how to spend money quickly on a joyride. And that's kind of what I see it as. And I even saw, even when Shatner went up, we all knew it was a joyride. He wasn't going to be in space. He wasn't up there for a day or two or a week or anything like that. So, I don't know. I just found it a publicity stunt, you know, for Amazon and Jeff Bezos. Didn't find it inspirational. And then when they're up there, how many times did Katy Perry say, "Oh my goddess"? I mean, goodness gracious. That was interesting in itself. And, you know, I just question whether they really did get into space itself, or if they just got to the horizon. There is a point where there are flights that can take you up that simulate being in space, where you have a sense of loss of gravity. Generally, it's only a couple of seconds to a minute that you feel that. And you never break through the firmament. You never get through the horizon itself. But wow. I don't know. What about you? Did you find it inspirational? Do you think it's an inspiration to any of your granddaughters, daughters, whatever? But I do have to say the little stuffy toy they took up, I don't know what that was supposed to represent. Maybe I missed it somewhere. But it was interesting. The only other thing is, you know, I kind of question how come Blue Horizons, when they did have that re-entry into the atmosphere, why don't they have any burn marks on the outside of the capsule that they're in? I mean, there's no way for it to be that pristine and that white, you know, because it's heating up to a pretty hot degree. So, I don't know. And I do know at one point, to me, it almost looked like they had opened up a window to look out the window. And I know that's an optical illusion from the way that the camera was with filming it. But not so sure I'd want to go up that far with those big of windows. You know, all around you. And I saw a video where they had actually, it was almost like they were praying to the, what they call the name of the rocket that took them up? New Shepard? Where it looked like they were praying before it, praising it, thanking it, before they went up. I don't know, that just seems kind of bizarre. And I don't know if you saw any of the videos where someone had pointed out that the patch they have actually looks like it's a Baphomet, a symbol of Baphomet, if it's upside down. So, you know, interesting. And I'm sure it's an experience that did change their worldview, and or, you know, being able to see Earth from that high up is kind of eye-opening and all. I know one of my favorite pictures, I have a postcard, and it's got the moon here. It looks like it's on the moon, standing out, and then you get to see the earth off in the distance. And I've always loved that because it's such an amazing photo. And I can't remember if it was Harrison Schmidt that had taken the photo or not. I think it was him that had taken the photo on one of the last lunar missions. Of course, then you get into a lot of people say that was faked, and I don't know. I don't think it was faked, but you know, I do find it interesting when we get pictures back from Verizon and the Horizon and what is the name of the Hubble's, the one that connects to it, where it's taking pictures of different planets and things in space. And how we get back these beautiful pictures of color. And I had Thomas and I have a friend that worked on the module that went to Mars. And so he was talking about how we aren't actually getting color pictures. What we get are black and white, shades of sepia. But what happens in the process is that they determine through the light rays that are coming through that the color shows through as this color or that color. So, you know, it's just interesting to learn some of those kind of things from others that have been part of that kind of thing. And I had a patient once who, her husband was part of that mission to Mars, the original mission to Mars, as one of the engineers in creating something that could rove around, that would do a little bit better than what the lunar module did. They didn't want to have to worry about batteries, a couple of other things. So it was interesting to hear his side of what they were doing when it was going up as well. But yeah, it's pretty neat. Interesting how they detect the different colors through the gamma rays and the spectrum that comes through. Have no idea if they actually really look like that, but it would be interesting to see, wouldn't it? It really was that way. So what are you guys working on this week? Have you been trying to get a lot of things done? Do a lot of you, let me ask you this, do a lot of you, now that spring and summer is on the horizon, do you take your crochet knitting with you wherever you go, to the beach, or just even sit outside when you're talking with others? I used to always have my crochet or my knitting with me, regardless, even when we went to family get-togethers and sit outside and, you know, barbecue or whatever. I always had it with me, even when we were out by the fire pit and that kind of thing. I know here on the days when I'm outside in the evening, sitting outside, I've always had my crochet with me. Just curious if you guys take it with you. Do those kind of things? Or are you too busy enjoying the beach or wherever you're at, the company you're with. I mean, I did enjoy the company I was with as well, but I'm one of those, I like to always be doing something. So even as we were talking, I would be crocheting, knitting. Unless, of course, I was throwing the ball for the dogs. Sometimes that's important. You know, many times we would walk around the farm and stuff like that. Thomas's brother has a farm, and many times in the summer we would go down to change over his pastures. We would change it over in the spring and change it over in the fall. And, oh, looky there, I'm on the edge. Need to get out some more yarn. Jimmy often would have us do that for him, change over. He just liked the way that Thomas and I would work together. You know, and Thomas and I would do it as a pair and string them along and get it done pretty quick. He said, I can't do it as quick as you do. And he said, for some reason, Wanda doesn't understand how she can help and, you know, do a part to help with that. And I would always laugh and say, no, Wanda doesn't want to learn how to do it. It's not that hard. And Wanda would just laugh and giggle. Of course, now she is helping him a little bit more. Now that she is retired, she was the accountant for Kingstown there in North Carolina. So she had a big job ahead of her. And she also had to take care of things that were not only in the U.S., but the division in Japan, I think. Japan? Can't remember where it was. But she would also handle those kind of things, so, you know, I don't blame her for not wanting to get out there in the pasture and do that kind of thing. And it was no big deal. The only thing I hated is when they were doing tobacco. I was so glad when they got out of the tobacco business. It was awful. Thomas and I are both kind of allergic to tobacco, so we both got very sick whenever we were doing it. It's called green sickness, which is probably appropriate since you're working with all that green leaves and the nicotine and all that kind of things. And whenever we had to top off the plants or whenever we would start priming them and then cutting them and tying them and hanging them, Thomas and I would both get sick from that because it just, nicotine gets into your body. Didn't matter if you're wearing gloves, and we usually wore latex gloves under another pair of gloves. I wore latex gloves and then I wore a pair of cotton gloves over the latex so I could still be able to tie and do the things I needed to do in that point. But it still got through all of that and made both of us sick, and we'd be nauseous and headache and all kinds of things. But I loved the smell. The smell of fresh tobacco is amazing. And Thomas and I used to always bring a leaf or two home so we could hang it in the house as a room freshener, you know, house freshener. So I do miss that part, but yeah, it was interesting. And my little basil plant is coming along well. It's got a little bit of a shoot coming out. I'm excited about that. Fresh basil is one of those smells that I just love. And I think I've told you before about I'd laugh and talk about, no, I just love the smell of it. And I would love to have a perfume of it, and found out there is a perfume. Perfume runs about $800 for an ounce of it. I'm like, well, I don't need perfume when I have it. If I have the basil in the house, I can just crush the leaf and rub it on me. And I had a friend that had posted a video. You know, we talk about different plants that irritate us, those kind of things. And, you know, like the tobacco did both me and Thomas, made us sick. I saw a video about daffodils that it releases, when you cut the daffodils, it releases a little bit of a toxin that if it gets on your skin, can burn your skin, give you a rash, and cause itching, kind of like poison ivy. And I thought that was interesting. And then the other thing with the video is if you eat the daffodil, these are daffodils, if you eat the daffodil flowers, because you know a lot of people eat flowers that are edible, it'll give you diarrhea. So, you know, I always find it interesting to learn about the things that different plants can do and can't do. And I know that a lot of people don't understand that tomatoes are a relative of tobacco. And it's part of the Nicotinus family. I think that's how you pronounce that. But interesting. The other interesting thing is many research used tobacco plants. Ran out of time on the camera. Many research used tobacco plants for research about antibiotic use or drug use, different medications for humans. Do I know how they do it? No. But I thought that was interesting, learning about that. There at, when Thomas was getting his PhD at Virginia Tech, there was a group of students that were doing all kinds of experiments about how antibiotics taken up by body and sickly and healthy bodies, and they used tobacco plants for that. Now, I would not have thought you would use tobacco plants, but they used that in part of their study, and it was interesting to see. And there's one thing that I miss about the, and I don't know, maybe I should see if they do it here at this, not at this university, but at Penn State. At Virginia Tech, they had a huge area, agriculture area. Of course, it was an agricultural school, but where they grew plants and they grew different varieties of plants. And then at the end of the year, generally April and May, they would sell off all the plants that they had grown as fundraisers. And I know Thomas and I several times gone to a couple of the plant sales to see what we could get. And this one year we went and we got chocolate thyme, lemon thyme, and I think orange thyme. And each one of those plants you could smell like the chocolate And the other one you could smell like lemon in it. And the other one you could smell like the orange. And each one of them gave off a little bit of that flavor when you used it in your cooking. So that was, a bit of fresh fun, trying out different herbs and things. But they had herbs and they had all kinds of plants, tomatoes, you name it. Thomas and I had chosen to, we have a big stack of heirloom tomatoes, plants, seeds that we have kept throughout the years. And if you keep them properly, they last quite a long time and can be used, to grow plants from. So that was something that Thomas and I did with the tomatoes and different things, because I don't know about you, but the grocery store tomatoes don't have a whole lot of flavor. And but we used to argue about which tomato had the best flavor. His mother was a big fan of Better Boys. And I think the reason she was a big fan of Better Boys is because it was easier to de-seed them. She had diverticulitis, so she would take off the top, bottom parts of the tomatoes so she could still have tomato, remove the seeds, that kind of thing. My preferred flavor of tomato are beefsteak. I just think for the most part they have good flavor. And that's something that, I told Thomas, I said, fine, we'll grow your Better Boys and I'll grow my beefsteak. Yeah, he used to laugh because he'd say, yeah, the beefsteak had a better flavor when it would grow. Do any of you put in a garden? Do you enjoy doing that? Like I said, Thomas and I for years have done container gardening. So I'm looking to do some container gardening this year. I do know that I do want to do tomatoes. And I do think I want to do some bell peppers. But I don't know if I have any bell pepper seeds left. Because when we were growing our bell peppers and stuff like that when we lived in Blacksburg, we had a neighbor whose black lab used to come over and eat our bell peppers while they were on the vine. So that and the skunk that lived under, every once in a while would come up and snag a squash or a bell pepper, which I used to think was funny. Because, I always thought they were just meat eaters. So to find out that they ate veggies too was a little bit of a surprise. And I have to tell you, there was one summer, well, it was late spring, but it was nice. Sitting out on the deck, which is where we had our container garden, and the skunk that lived under the deck, it never sprayed us or anything like that, but it paraded its kittens up for me to see, and that was kind of freaky. I was like, uh-oh, she gonna come get me this time? But she just kind of walked them around the deck, paraded them, and they all went back under the deck. So I guess she just wanted to show off her babies. Or maybe they were on a little skunk field trip. Who knows, right? Oh, goodness. My church here in our local area today of course is tomorrow. Today is Good Friday. Thinking ahead of what I'm going to do tomorrow. But today, later on, my friend and I are going to go to the Way of the Cross, a church here. It's about 45 minutes away. It's like, State College area in Boalsburg. They do this immersive experience in the church where you go through these different stations of the cross. Like at one point, you're like in the Garden of Gethsemane. And you kind of move through there. It's a time to reflect, be meditative, pray if you want, those kind of things. And as you go through the whole thing, at some point you are in a room where the cross is, and you can actually get under the cross and raise up and feel the weight of the cross on you, which I think is kind of neat. And then at the very end, you come into a main room, and basically they have like a crown of thorns, like broadcast up onto the ceiling. And you hear the sounds of hammers, and there you can hammer whatever it is you want to surrender to God into the cross. So it's looking forward to the experience. And I've never participated in one of those, so I think it'll be neat. So what are your plans for this holiday, for Easter? Oh, and while we're talking about Easter, in the church that we go to now, they have a habit Easter Sunday where everyone says, when they greet each other, "He is risen." And you're supposed to answer back, "He is risen indeed," or "Indeed, he is risen." Something like that. I've never been in a church that does that, and to me, that seems odd. But I guess I kind of have to practice it. I'm the greeter, so I guess I need to practice that. And I don't, for a long time I didn't understand, what's the point of that? I mean, we all know he's risen. But, I just find it interesting. The practices that some churches do as opposed to others. What they don't do, that kind of thing. But, yeah, should be interesting. And like I said, I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys, I think I have chatted on long enough. So I'm going to let you go on this Good Friday. And I hope to see you again soon. Everybody have a great weekend. Happy Easter. And if you participate, I hope you have a great weekend. All right. See you soon. Bye.